This is Nightline on ENCA. My name is Thembekile Mrototo. So it seems the wheels of justice are slowly beginning to turn. You've heard that before, I'm sure. Well, that is if the latest high-profile arrests by the Hawks are anything to go by. The elite crime-fighting unit has taken several government officials into custody. Among them is former Cabinet Minister Bongani Bongo, the most high-profile yet of that group. Bongo is also facing a probe from the Ethics Committee in Parliament. That relates to his alleged attempt to bribe Parliament's legal advisor Ntuthuzelo Vanara in the Eskom inquiry. That was back in 2017. Let's speak more about this and say good evening to Lawson Naidoo. He's the Executive Secretary at CASAC and joins us from our Cape Town studios tonight. So, Lawson, I was tracking some of the immediate reaction from South Africans on social media, and a lot of them seeming quite upbeat that, as I was referencing in the introduction to our conversation, that it appears that the wheels of justice are beginning to turn. Do you share that view?
Indeed, I do, and I think it's been quite clear that arrests are going to be coming at some point. I think in the media briefing that Advocate Shamila Batoy from the NPA gave earlier this week, she indicated that a lot of work is going on behind the scenes and that the South African public would begin to see results in due course. I don't think anybody at that time expected that it would be quite so quickly from Tuesday to Thursday that we would see a series of arrests and other legal interventions today. So I certainly share the belief that this is the start of the process of holding people to account.
The start of the process, but still very early to celebrate, I would say, because the true test will lie in the quality of evidence that will be brought forward and whether this case goes all the way to prosecution, because all too often in the last 4 years or so, we've seen this celebration of arrests and people appearing in bail, or appearing in court, I should say, only for the matters to fall apart.
Indeed, and I think that's a level of skepticism that is probably healthy in the circumstances, based on, as you say, our recent experience with people being charged, charges then being withdrawn or dismissed. But I think what we're beginning to see now is a much more detailed level of investigation and preparedness by both the Hawks and the prosecuting authority to ensure that when they do bring matters to a head, as they have done today in respect of Mr. Bongo, as well as the arrests in the Amatole district in the Eastern Cape, that this is on the basis of painstaking investigative work that has been done, and that they're confident that they have a good enough case to take to court. So one certainly hopes that that is the case, and that when these matters do come before court, they are properly ventilated, and we can see the results of those court processes take shape.
Ntuthuzelo Vanara accused Mr. Bongo of trying to bribe him. This was in 2017 during that parliamentary investigation into allegations of state capture at Eskom. The ANC still went ahead and kept Bongo in Parliament. He is serving quite high up in the structures. He is the chairperson of the Home Affairs Portfolio Committee. I want us to talk specifically about the party's decision to keep him at that level. Does it speak to perhaps an ethical and moral bankruptcy from the ANC?
Well, I think it speaks to the lack of action by the ANC against its members, and including its senior members who have been facing allegations of corruption, of involvement in state capture, of undermining the integrity of the state, and the ANC not taking action, or only taking action very selectively. As you point out, Mr. Bongo then went on to become a minister of state security, no less. Despite having these very strong allegations against him, he now serves as a Portfolio Committee chair of the Home Affairs Committee in the National Assembly, so still occupying very senior positions. And I think it's now incumbent upon the ANC to give an indication to the South African public that they in fact take these matters seriously, and that Mr. Bongo should be suspended from his parliamentary activities whilst this case plays out before the courts.
But what does Bongo's stay and that of other questionable characters in the ANC mean for the Cyril Ramaphosa Tumamina message of clean governance and making sure that people of somewhat dodgy repute aren't kept in the very highest levels of both party and state?
Well, I think, this speaks to the issue that President Ramaphosa has clearly set out his stall as wanting to run a clean government, to eradicate the mistakes of the past, to undo the rot that was set in over the 9 wasted years. And, this provides an opportunity for Mr. Ramaphosa's government, his party, the ANC, to take decisive action to assure South Africans that they're serious about this commitment and that they will, where evidence emerges, take appropriate steps to remove someone like this from public office. Yes, we accept the fact that he must be presumed innocent until found otherwise by a court of law, but that does not mean that the political party is prevented from taking any action now, and I think that would be the right thing to do. It would send the right signals to people in South Africa that this government is serious about fighting corruption.
But with allegation and counter-allegation flying around tonight, who's going to be left in government and in the governing party when all of this is said and done, one wonders?
Well, I think, this certainly exposes the divisions within the ANC that, have perhaps been papered over since the NASREC conference at the end of 2017. And I caught a little bit of Mr. Bongo's interview on your channel earlier this evening, where, he certainly, took the gloves off in terms of exposing the divisions within the ANC and attacking senior colleagues within the African National Congress. And I think this is a serious matter that the party has to deal with at the highest levels. But as I say, it's also for the president. Obviously, this is Mr. Bongo holds a parliamentary position, not a governmental position. So it's not directly up to President Ramaphosa in his capacity as president of the country to act, but certainly as the leader of a political party, he needs to ensure that appropriate action is taken.
Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Secretary of CASAC, speaking to us from our Cape Town studios tonight as we bring you the continuing coverage here on ENCA of the arrest of the ANC MP, Bongani Bongo, who's tonight spoken with our Thembekile Mrototo, denying allegations of bribery and corruption. He's out on bail of 5,000 rand and will stay right across the story until he appears in court in late January. Well,